Heather J. Jones, where the only safe word is next chapter.
Oh! Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes. We actually had a very meet cute story, if I remember correctly. We were in another live with with a bookstore owner, and they started reading Feral Daddy, which is another book you wrote. That's what I thought you were going to ask me to read, actually, when I approached you. And that's how we met. And we met because a voice actor was reading your story. Yeah. And it was intense. I was as red as a tomato. I was super embarrassed.
Yes, I remember now.
But it was a great time.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because when people read that one, they're like, Heather. So when anybody says like, oh, let's talk about your books, I'm like, let's talk about Beautiful Chaos, because I don't know.
Okay. Hold on, let's unpack this. You don't want to talk about the other ones?
We can. I mean, it's up to you.
Well, I haven't read the other ones. So.
You might want to put some those that cover those red cheeks.
No, I would just have to do the whole interview like this. Just
yes. Yes. I remember that night we were reading, I think, like a little passage from it, and you did this like deep red. And I was like, oh my God, you would not be able to read that book in public. I swear.
No, I couldn't read that book in public. For sure not. And especially not voice acted by the voice actor that was speaking that night.
Oh, no. He could read a shampoo bottle like anybody.
He could. We need to find his name. We can't just talk about him like this and not give him credit where credit is due. Because he's amazing. More people should hire him. He has an amazingly sexy voice.
Yeah, especially for like an MC type of book, I think.
I mean, that night was unhinged. So anyway, I feel like Beautiful Chaos is a little, so by your standards, this is tame. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would say it's like, well, it was kind of like my intro to smut, kind of.
Okay.
Because it was the first time I ever wrote anything that had any kind of smut in it. And then I went from that to Feral Daddy. Everybody usually, they're like, when they read Feral Daddy, they're like, oh, what else you have? And I'm like, well, Beautiful Chaos. And they'll go read that and they're like, Heather, where's all the... Don't read that one first if you're expecting it to be super unhinged. But I mean, the reason I didn't put all of that crazy stuff into that first one with Beautiful Chaos is because of the content that's in it and what it's based on. It seemed like it'd be a little bit tacky to have all of that like unhinged type of stuff in it.
Okay.
So
fair enough. Yeah. I can see that. Okay, so you were taking me. You were holding my hand through your content basically when I approached. You're like, read Beautiful Chaos first, and then scale up to Feral Daddy.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Because I mean, not that it's disappointing because they're both completely different books with completely different everything. So they're both really good in my opinion. But I'm biased. But you have like Beautiful Chaos has more like dark, heavy type of content and plot to it versus Feral Daddy is just, it's fun.
It's just fun smut.
Yes. Okay. I mean, there's a plot. The plot is there, but like, it's fun. It's not a heavy read. Like Beautiful Chaos is you gotta read those trigger warnings beforehand. So
Absolutely. Read those trigger warnings. I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
So give us a quick introduction of yourself.
Oh, okay. So I'm Heather J. Jones. I am an author. I have 3 published books right now, and then I'll have, hopefully by the end of this year, I'll have 2 more published. So I'm working on an MC one right this minute, and also the second to Feral Daddy, which is going to be called Raw Daddy.
It's going to be called what?
Raw Daddy.
Okay.
So, yeah, so those are in the works, and I'm a mood writer, so it's hard for me to like stay focused on one project at a time, and so that's why it's kind of taken me a little bit of time to get that second one out.
Okay.
But I am, I'm working on it, and it's coming together very, very nicely. So if you think that one was unhinged, like the second one's gonna be.
Okay, it's good. So the first one is just feral, but this one's gonna be raw, basically.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's because the main female character in the book, she's kind of like starting to like find herself and learn like what she likes and what she doesn't like, and kind of like open up to the whole concept of what the book is really about. And then in the second one, she's kind of like, okay, forget it, I want to try everything.
Okay, I see.
It's fun.
Yeah. Okay. I'm starting to sense a little pattern there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I won't say anything to spoilers.
Yes.
Okay, so today though, we're going to talk about Beautiful Chaos, which I learned is your debut novel. It's the first thing that you self-published, right? No,
actually, I self-published a contemporary romance first. And that one was kind of like based off of some of my own experiences. And so that one was that one's called Tainted Sweet Nothings. And that one was really difficult for me to write. And so after that one, I decided that I was going to go fictional because that was it's really good. It was really good for me because it was very therapeutic and helped me work through a lot of personal traumas and stuff. But that was my debut novel, and I really enjoyed writing it. It took me a really long time to do it. And once I published it, everybody that read it really enjoyed it. And I don't really kind of advertise too much about it just because it isn't, within the realm that I like to write in now.
Okay.
So it's completely different from the other two that I've published so far, and anything going forward. I probably won't write anything like that ever again.
Interesting.
But it was what kind of opened me up to be like, I can do this. I can write. I enjoy writing, and just kind of got me into that whole thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Tanisha here. Yes, writers, we do our own therapy. I feel like I talk to a lot of writers, and they're like, "Yeah, this book really helped me heal."
Yeah, it really does, because it's like you don't realize what you've gone through, or like how you feel about certain things, or like whether or not you've even healed from things until you start really opening it up. And to me, talking to somebody about it is totally different from like writing it out. You know what I mean? Like,
why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe because you just kind of have to like really get in touch with like how you feel about it, and you're writing it to yourself essentially. So it's like, I don't have any judgment behind this, and what I do with this is all for me. So if I want to publish it and let other people read it, and other people learn from it, or maybe heal from, their own traumas through it, then that's my personal business. But when I'm initially writing that, nobody else sees that. It's completely judgment free. So like whatever's on that paper, it's between me and that paper. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. I agree with that. Yeah. Especially when you're writing that first manuscript, it's like you're just getting it on paper, so anything goes, and it can be quite cathartic. Even if it doesn't make it to the final edit, just the fact that you got it out it can be quite.
Exactly. And that can be really eye-opening too. Like, oh my gosh, I'm such a strong person to have gone through all of this craziness and still have a smile on my face. And I'm sure that's the same for like anybody who's used it as a type of therapy or release, or anything like that. So
true. Yeah, you kind of encounter your own strength.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's very powerful. So is that how you get your ideas for your characters?
Really, kind of yes, and kind of no. I'll see something maybe on TV or in real life, or someone will say something and I'll kind of be like, you know what, I bet I could write a good character off of that. But most of my FMCs this far kind of have been me putting myself into it a lot. But as far as like the male characters, I haven't really, besides Feral Daddy was actually written about another streamer. Yeah. So that one is actually based on an actual streamer. And then I'm actually working on one right now that is based off of the same narrator that you and I were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Wait, because you're dropping bombs here.
I know.
You need to pull up some receipts.
See, the thing is though, I'm not gonna start giving too much away with that one yet. So do you see the chat? They're like, yeah. What?
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, this one is gonna be this one's gonna be fun. But Feral Daddy was definitely fun too. But yes. So those two characters are based off of actual real people. But
oh my god. Okay.
But back to Beautiful Chaos, Jasper was not written about anyone specific, but based off of a character that I feel like every woman in that type of situation kind of needs, based off the storyline.
So girl was writing the blueprint.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Like if we could clone Jasper and every one of us women have just one Jasper. I feel like
we're not being greedy.
I know. We just want one person. He is like the. I know. We just want one person. He is like the ultimate book boyfriend, fictional boyfriend, or whatever. Like he would be.
I have one criticism though.
Okay, what is it?
He's blonde.
I wanted to make him different, and actually, as I wrote him out, his characteristics in my mind changed.
Yeah.
So, I can see him as not being the description that I described him.
So, obviously, the first description that you gave, I was like, oh, what a bummer. But then as the story progressed, I did the same thing. I imagine.
And honestly, when I read it, as a reader, I picture whoever I want to picture anyway. It doesn't matter. The author wants me to picture a blonde or a dark-haired man, or even a olive colored skin. I picture who I want to picture myself.
Sure. Absolutely.
So it's it doesn't really matter.
No, this is Tanisha, this blonde thing. Nothing wrong with blondes. I just have this running joke with some other book talk girlies that we all write a black-haired men. So we've established that dark-haired men is the best, but I'm full of it. Okay, I like them dark and broody, and I'm gonna be, I'm gonna die on that hill. And
I'm gonna still say I will always say that not even dark haired. I like them older, age gap, salt and pepper.
Oh my god,
give me age gap every day.
If that's your thing, you need to. Okay, so Tanisha writes. She's right there in the comments. She has a series. It's so smutty. It's so good. And the second book is this blonde Michael age gap situation that I think you're gonna love, because when I read it, I was like, okay, this is not my thing, and I was a little skeptical about it. But then when I read it, I was like, whoo, okay, maybe this awakens something.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to know some details about that one, because
I'll send them to you later.
I love some age. I didn't know I liked age gap, honestly, but I just recently got into it, and I'm just like, okay, maybe it's because I'm getting older. I don't know. I'm in my mid 60s, mid 30s, so maybe it's because I'm getting older, and I'm just okay, that's.
It's like, oh my god, he has good credit. Holy shit!
Valid driver's license.
What? He has his own house? What?
That's funny.
No, that's a good point. But so But 1 second though, because they can be aged and she can be aged as well. So you like the fact that she's younger and he's older kind of by a lot. Are we talking 20s, 30s? Or are we talking like 30s, 50s here?
I think like closer to 30, but maybe still in like their 20s, like 28, 29. And then the guy in like their late 30s, early 40s. Okay. That's like the perfect age gap.
It's the perfect, okay.
You know what I mean?
Sweet spot.
Like just old enough to be naughty, but not old enough to be like grandpa naughty, because that's gross.
Oh, come on. 40s is
I don't want him to break a hip while we're talking.
You are. Oh my God. Okay. Well, for the record, since this is my show, I don't think 40s is grandpa old. I think grandpa old is like after you get your Social Security, that's when you're.
No Social Security checks.
That's the mark right there. I'm not saying you can't look good. I'm saying that's the mark.
Okay. That's funny.
I'm glad we established that line.
Yes. That's an important line.
It's important that we get this on the record.
Right.
So you chose Miami and Atlanta as your kind of like cities. Is that where you live, or like why those two cities? I found that peculiar.
I have no reason behind that. I just really like Miami because honestly, because of Dexter. I love the show Dexter. And so that was what the first city that popped in my head. I was like, I like Miami. The nightlife would be fun, And then Atlanta, because I have never been to Atlanta, but I really like to hear about it. And there's a romance bookstore that just opened in there actually. But that's not why. But but I just always wanted to go visit Atlanta. So I was like, well, these are the two cities I'm choosing.
That's a great reason. That's what I love to hear.
Behind it, just.
So you mentioned Into the Water by Paula Hawkins like 17 times in this book. Why?
Okay. So when I started writing it, I asked a friend, I was like, hey, I need a book where like the girl is somebody who's strong and somebody who's not going to be like dependent on men. Like she needs to be somebody that's strong and like self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. And my friend actually had recommended that book, and I was like, that's weird. So I go and I look, and I was like actually trying to find something that was like maybe a little more popular, so it would be like more obvious on like why I chose that. Yeah. But I actually really loved the book, so I went ahead and went with it.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I really liked it, and I felt like it correlated with Harper's personality and her strengths, as a woman. And the fact that she is such an independent character. That she does need what she's given from Jasper in the book, but I feel like she was completely fine, doing it on her own, how she was doing it. She was making it. She just needed a little nudge on how to heal properly without always having to live in fear.
Absolutely.
So I think it kind of went really well with her character.
Yeah, no, definitely. She was definitely in need of some much needed safe space that he provided, that I feel like no matter how much she wanted, Aster couldn't really give her.
Yeah, for sure. And I really liked having Aster being such a huge part of her life, because I feel like when you go through something so traumatic as what Harper went through, as a young teenager, I feel like, you already feel so alone. Having that one person that maybe you don't tell everything to, but at least you have that person you can run to when you start feeling so small and so overwhelmed and so just completely overtaken by your trauma. You have to have that one person you can kind of escape to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think she was such a great contrast to Harper. Yeah. And I talk about that a little further down. You have a lot of contrasting moments, like you know, the mothers are very different from one another. They're like contrast each other. Harper and Aster, and just it's so funny how the scales turn of while Aster's having this super traumatic experience over there, she's healing over here. So I feel like you play a lot with that like juxtaposition of contrast. Do you do that on purpose?
I do, because I feel like, you know, although I did want to put the focal point, you know, being solely Harper and her trauma, her healing, her, you know, everything, I feel like it's not always just completely down. You're not always down when you're healing from anything. You know, a lot of times you can't tell when that person is working through trauma or what they've dealt with or whatever. So I feel like doing that, it's like it kept it real in a way, you know, because it's like, okay, Harper knows how to click out of her trauma and become what she needs to for her friends. But then at the same time, she's still hurt, she's still broken, she's still trying to work through her own trauma. But like it wasn't like all about Harper, because in reality that's not how it is. You don't get to like be all about yourself and all about your trauma and all about what you're going through, because everybody around you is going through something too. And so I just kind of wanted to like put that out there and make it like real as you can get, because you have friends, you have family, they're going to go through things, and even though you're trying to work through your own trauma, everybody else's lives don't get put on hold.
Absolutely. And I think you did very well on that, because I feel like every character has their own baggage. And actually, for one of the characters, he kept writing, and that's his story to tell, and that's his story to tell, and
that is actually because they're getting their own story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that was kind of like my little Easter egg in there. So yeah, he's getting his own story, and that one's going to be fun. So
nice. Okay, that's something to look forward to.
Yes.
So why do you like talking about these taboo topics?
I feel like, you know, it nowadays it's mentioned and talked about more than it used to. But as a teenager, kind of working through my own traumas, it was hard for me to talk about. And it was hard for me to even hear about other people, you know, even because it's like, if you open up your mouth and start talking about it, then I always felt like people would look at you differently. Yeah. And so now I feel like as an author, I get to tell the story. I get to decide the outcome. I get to decide who, you know, is weak from it, who's strong from it. I get to decide everything. And it kind of, in a way, gives me strength. It gives me the strength that I didn't have when I was younger. It gives me the strength that, you know, my voice matters, even though it is through fictional characters, fictional stories. Like, I get to decide all of that. I have full control over all of that. And so talking about it, I feel like it makes me stronger, you know, as a person, when I write about those things. And most of the time, in some of the stories, even the stories that nobody's even got to read yet, you know, like, the trauma is there. It is overwhelming, but you decide whether or not you make it through it. And you get to decide whether or not that trauma is what you live or what just something that happened to you. So that's why I enjoy writing about it, because I get to show that there is a better side to it. You know, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, not to sound cliche or anything, but like, you know, like you can get past it. You can get over it. And yeah, it's always going to stick with you, but like you can live a happy life, you know, regardless of what happened to you.
And you deserve it too.
Yes, very much so. You deserve it. And it's such a struggle, and it's so hard to work past some of these issues, and not just like, you know, with Beautiful Chaos, it's essay, and it's those type of things. But like in any type of, you know, trauma, you don't know what kind of trauma somebody else has experienced, you know, and you don't know how hard it's beaten them down or how hard it's been for them to get over it, or if they even are over it. So yeah, talking about those hard subjects, it makes me feel more in control over my own emotions towards it, or my own feelings towards it.
No, I think that's very powerful, and I commend you for it because it's hard to sometimes even be vulnerable to yourself. So
Yeah.
I applaud you for kind of opening the Pandora's box on something so so hard as trauma in order to help others heal. So that's really powerful.
And hopefully that's what people get from like my stories when they read my stories, is like finding that inner strength, like you've been beaten down, but nobody can keep you down except yourself. You can always get out of it.
Interesting. And yet, one of the most jarring, because I'm right there with you, right? For me, your trigger warnings, obviously, I read things like this all the time, but I always brace myself because I don't know how the author is going to represent it, how far are they going to go, and even though I could deal with it, sometimes the trigger warnings don't explain the nuance, right? They don't tell you how you're going to be affected by it. So obviously, it's a risk you take as a reader,
right?
So for that reason, at least for my sensibilities, and the first question I wrote down as I was reading it is that he calls her doll, like first nickname. And I found that repugnant, and I don't know why you did that, and I want to know why.
Well, at first when he said it, it was more so as like, to be an ass,
Okay.
But the way she responded to it, she responded well to it, and it calmed her sometimes, and so, she needed that endearment, but she didn't know she needed that endearment because she never had that. Her parents were crap, and she didn't have that. She had Esther, that's her bestie, but like she needed somebody with a pet name, like she needed somebody, just to give her something that's just hers,
Gotcha.
And so that's why I did that. Because at first it was he was just being an ass.
Yeah. No, I got the pet name thing. I thought it was cute. I just didn't know, because most books have like little raven or bird or whatever. They all have like a little thing that they call the FMC at some point. But doll was like not what I was expecting.
Right.
So I was just wondering why that word out of other options, I guess.
Well, I mean, at first I liked princess, but then I was like, no, she's not a princess, and baby, I mean, no, she's not a baby, so it was just kind of like what was fitting for her that wouldn't be something that she wouldn't respond well to. And so I liked doll because it's like, it's endearing, but it's also not too much.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's kind of it's just right for Harper. She's a doll.
Okay. No, I see it now. Now that I hear you voice it out loud, it's making more sense to me than when I read it, because for me, it has a completely different connotation. And when I said that, I was like, hello, who are you calling doll over here? But she liked it, and I was confused. I was like, well, if my girl likes it, then
yeah. And like I think I even kind of referenced it in the beginning, like when he first called her doll, she was like, excuse me, but I kind of like it, like he just called me doll. I should correct him, but I don't know if I want to,
Yeah,
because she liked it, she liked it. It's like, when you're, I don't know, in some type of like an authoritative position, and somebody calls you something sweet like that, it's like, that's a change, that's different. And I kind of like it.
Okay, fair enough.
It wasn't something that was going to like belittle her, even though those pet names aren't really meant to belittle them. It's like, it's not something that would make her feel, in my opinion, I felt like doll was like right in a happy medium, like, it's a pet name, it's sweet, but it's also like, you're not telling me that I'm weak,
Yeah. No, I see what you're putting down.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since we're talking about how much of an asshole he is, Jasper, which is the boyfriend, the book boyfriend although Max is close second, I have to say.
Max is a little Okay, just wait for that one. I'm already writing that one too, but I kind of put that one to the side for a little bit. But yeah, Max I like Max.
Max is cute, okay?
Yeah.
But Jasper, let's focus on Jasper. So he's very masculine, but you often describe him as a pompous asshole. But yet he is also broken, which is a word that you use a lot in the book. You always talk about how these characters are broken, and she's broken, and he's broken, and they're constantly trying to prove to each other that they're not as broken as they think.
Yeah.
But there's a point in the story, and this is not a spoiler, but it's a very powerful. I think it's the most powerful moment in your entire book.
It's exactly where you're going.
Where am I going?
Yeah, go for it.
We're in the attic, and he like grabs her super scarily. He loses control, and she's scared. She like moves her hand back, and like, you know, she's scared. And then she's about to leave, and he's like, "Please stay. Hold on, I have it here in quotations because stay. I don't think I can do this alone." And so I think that was, for me, that I gasped when I read that. Because that was, again, such a juxtaposition. You have this Jasper boyfriend that he's so tough and constantly saving Harper from all these things, and then you see him break into pieces.
Yeah.
Why did you write him that way? Why did you wait so long to break him?
Well, because I wanted Harper to be stronger before he showed her any weakness on his side. Because I feel like she needed that extra push, that strength, for as long as she did in the story. And I wanted him to have an emotional moment because I wanted to show that even the Rock breaks too. Like, you can always be the person that helps and never be the one to ask for help. But those people are usually the ones that are hurting the most, in my opinion. So I wanted to show that he is human as well. And in relationships and reality, both people have their own baggage, usually. And so when you read these books, a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time, one character is the weak one, and then the one character is a strong one, and one saves the other, and then they live happily ever after. And, you know, the whole plot is them working through whatever traumas and issues and trials and whatever they're going through, which I love. You know, don't get me wrong, I love those kinds of books, but it's not really reality because we're all broken in some way. You know, we all have our own issues. And even though he was her rock, she needed to be his rock as well to make it where their relationship was, you know, as powerful as what it is.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think that last part, the last, after the plane onward, I think that was my favorite part of the book because I felt like they finally like got to an equal standing.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah. I actually, when I was doing a reread, I was reading it. Now, actually, that attic scene was one that I was like, kind of worried about when I was writing it. Yeah. And then when I left it alone, I wrote it, I left it alone, and then I went to go do a reread, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that is like the impact that I needed within the story, I felt like. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yes. Is that what you thought I was going to mention?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because I was like, oh no, this could go either way right now.
No, I loved it. I really, really did.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for writing it. Okay. But at the same time.
Okay.
You have the extreme wealth trope. Why? Do you do that in all your books?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. The reason I did that is because I wanted him to be able to give her everything she ever wanted. So I wanted the luxury there because she didn't have that when she was growing up. She was poor. Her family used every dime they had to, you know, I don't want to give too much away, but, you know, her family was very poor and didn't care about even her health, you know, or her eating, you know. And the whole trauma that happens, you know, to her was correlated really because of lack of money, you know. And so I wanted there to be wealth because of that. Like, I wanted him to give her the world, and I wanted him to be able to do that, and for her to be able to acknowledge, because if you notice, she hates that. She hates that he has money, and she hates that he spends it. She hates that he's like not frugal. She hates that he's wasteful with it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted her to be not necessarily like unappreciative of what he does, but I wanted her to like grow into that. Like, I'm deserving of these nice things, you know? And it kind of like went with her growth throughout the story. I felt like.
Okay. Yeah. I really loved how you gave us the end of a chapter, and then the start of the next chapter is like kind of a little bit of the last scene from the other's perspective. It does make the book longer, but it made their perspectives more intertwined. Where did you get that idea from?
I accidentally did that, actually, on my first, when I first did it, when Jasper first came into the scene, I did that, and I was like, oh man, I put part of that scene in there, because I write per chapter usually. Like, I'll finish a chapter, let my mind settle, and then I'll go into the next POV, because I love dual POV. Like, all my books are dual POV. I love that. Because I feel like you can really capture the story that way, because you're getting both sides of, you know, emotions and thoughts and, you know, all of that. And so when I first did that, I was like, well, I don't want to take that out. Like, I like that you know what he's feeling in that same situation. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go with it. And if I like it, I like it. I like it.
Yes, I like it too, because it kind of gives me I thought it was a really good idea. It felt like, you know, when you watch sitcoms, and then like when you get to the next episode, they give you a last chapter you missed. Like, it it felt like that, and it was kind of cool because it grounded, I don't know, the dynamic. It made me feel like I was, I don't know, observe it somehow. You know how people say that they write on third person because it's like you're God.
Oh. Well, yeah.
You know, like they're like have this like bird's eye point of view of the whole thing. Somehow, by you doing that, it made me, the reader, feel that way, even though we were in first person, because I felt like I had the most information in the room.
Right. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I just thought that was really clever.
Oh, awesome.
And I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
So there's obviously an intense emotional back and forth between Harper and Jasper. Mm-hmm. We talked a little bit about it, but what was like the most important thing that you wanted to represent through their dynamic?
Well, I wanted her essentially to be able to be vulnerable, because of her being, you know, a self-sufficient, I can do it by myself, nobody has to save me type of character. I wanted her to learn how to be vulnerable, and I wanted him to be that for her, and not to be overbearing or overwhelming with it. I wanted him to be exactly what she needed, but also her to have that same, you know, learn to be that same way for him. And so that's why it was kind of like, you know, I wanted there to be confusion, you know, in her feelings and his feelings. And I wanted there to be back and forth. And I wanted to kind of show that vulnerability on both parts.
I mean, and that definitely existed. I think Jasper should be crowned the king of self-awareness in the book talk community, because goddamn, that man's self-aware.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, that's why I just really love how he came out, and like how other readers and, you know, my ARC readers and stuff, how they perceived him, because it was exactly what I wanted him to be, you know, how I wanted him to be perceived by the reader. So I was really pleased with that.
Nice. So, okay, but in that same vein, did you set out to write him as a touch and you die kind of guy, or did that just evolve that way?
I actually wanted him to be actually a bit more aggressive. But as I was writing, I wanted him to be, because I wanted him to be like that ruthless mafia man that was like trying not to be, you know. But as I was writing it, I felt like Jasper needed to be a little more tamed, because I feel like had he been as aggressive as I originally set out for him to be, then I don't think that his and Harper's relationship would have evolved the way that it did. I feel like it probably would have been too much contrast, maybe. I don't know. I softened him up actually later because in the first draft he was a lot more aggressive with everything, and so I had to go back and kind of tame him a little bit.
Reel him in.
Yeah, just a little bit because I feel like that. Like, yeah, it was important for him to have those characteristics and attributes, but like at the same time, like it didn't fit right with the story. For him to be like, over the top unhinged, like I really wanted him to be. I feel like he needed to be that little bit more softer for Harper's, processing and stuff.
No, I think I agree. She needed a more docile man. She needed a strong man, but she needed someone that had some sensibilities.
Yeah, for sure.
So in that same sense, like, how do you balance? You obviously made him more aggressive at the beginning, but like, how do you balance possessiveness versus protection? Like, when you're writing these characters, how do you tread that line?
Honestly, I'm a mood writer, and so like, depending on the scenario within the scene, I just kind of let it flow, honestly. I don't have like a definite perimeter that I kind of like stay within or anything like that. I kind of just let it go. And whatever the story leads me to, that's where it's going. Like the characters kind of just write themselves within the story. And yeah, exactly. Like he just kind of like, when he needed to be possessive, he had to put on that strong front and start becoming possessive than he was. And if he needed to be obsessive, then he was. And, it's kind of like he just did what he wanted to. And I just kind of wrote it out for him.
I do think I was very surprised that Harper was so cool about, like, the stalking.
Yeah. I originally had it where she was, like, super creeped out about it. But she was in her safe space, in the bookshop. So, like, she felt safe there. And so I felt like she was in an area that she felt safe, And then whenever the other part happened with Aster and the package, like, Aster was right there. So it was always, like, something that kind of made her give her a sense of safety was always within the scene.
Interesting.
So it kind of, and then I didn't let it go on too far or for too long intentionally because I didn't want it to become like this drawn out, like she should be creeped out and why the hell isn't she kind of thing, before she developed that side relationship with, I don't want to give too much away, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
With her internet thing,
yeah.
So then that kind of gave her a little more courage, I guess, a little bit. I feel like, because she felt like she wasn't completely alone, even though she doesn't trust anyone.
Interesting. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, I'm kind of torn because sometimes I read books and the girls are like, "Oh my God, I can never trust you again," and they do this whole palaver, and I'm like, "Girl, it's okay. Like, you're gonna stay with him. Like, chill out. Like, it's a little drawn out." But yours was like staggeringly short reaction. And I was like, okay, this is very level-headed of her. Like, I don't know.
Well, she had to grow up fast.
Yeah.
She had to become an adult when she was still a child.
True.
She had to take care of herself. She had to, do things on her own. And lucky for her, she had a best friend whose parents cared about her. But like, what if she didn't have that? So she had to grow up really fast. She had to become a very mature child. And so that's why I kind of made it that way, because I was like, she didn't need to be like that girly, immature, because she wasn't. She grew up really fast because of the things that happened to her. And then also the fact that she lacked parental guidance in a way that she needed. And so that was kind of, and really based off of my own childhood, I had to grow up really fast. And so I kind of like correlated that, within my story, and like thinking like, well, how would I feel? I'm like, I would start looking for like logic. That's my thing. I like to look for logic in everything, like within life. And so like, if something doesn't logically make sense, that's when I panic. And
okay.
So like, that's kind of like how I was thinking Harper kind of would think, like, logically this is weird, but let's see what happens, you know?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And again, I was torn about it because it was unexpected. I've never read a story that tackled it that way. Yeah. And I found it refreshing. I'll tell you that much. But I didn't know how to deal. It made me pause and say, like, what would I do? Like, what would I?
And you know what? You're not the first to tell me that, actually. And I feel like that was a good, you know, that's a good perspective to have in that way. You know,
no,
opens your eyes to be like, you know, like if I was going through this, like what would I do? You know?
Oh, it certainly made me think and it made me pause. So I appreciate it. It definitely stood out. I'm still thinking about it, you know?
Well, it was good.
Did any specific scene between them or in the book at all, like, surprise you as you were writing it? Because it seems like you are very, like, you're channeling your character's kind of person.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the scene that surprised me. And when I read it back, I was like, as I was reading my own writing, is when they're in the attic, not the attic, the like, what's it called? He's saving her. They're in the.
Oh, okay.
What is that room called? Like, basement.
You know what's funny? I'm in a basement right now, so like I'm extra silly.
How funny. Okay, so when they're in the basement and there's that part where Jasper looks over and he's holding her, protecting her from the flying, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, and he looks over and he sees his best friend.
Yeah.
Okay, that part, I was originally going to, you know, him out of the story. And then I was like, no, I can't do that. And so, like, I kept going with it. And that when I was reading it, I was thinking, it was so funny because my best friend read the book and she goes, oh my God, I thought Max was going to die. I said, me too. And she, like, paused and she was like, Heather, you wrote the book. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I was originally going to kill him off. I really was. But, like, that part right there is what surprised me most because it was like, I didn't know what I was going to do with that. But it had to be something that was like gut wrenching, like sit you at the edge of your seat, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I think that was the part.
That was good. Yeah, no, you caught me. When he was talking about his shoes, I was like, I was about to text you, girl. I was going to be like, no, you're going to have to second edition. We're going to
bring him back.
Real quick, Vigilante says the way Heather writes is very refreshing with how she approaches things. And then she gave us basement. Yes.
Basement, yeah. She knows.
I agree.
She read the book in like 12 hours. She messaged me and told me she was reading it. And then she finished it like super fast. Yeah, see, she said I was literally messaging her after every chapter.
Oh my God.
And then at the end, she was like, Heather, I hate you. Why did you do this?
Yeah, the ending, we're going to unpack that later. But like, damn, girl, the ending, what the hell? What the hell? And, you know, I went back and it said book 1 of 1. And I was like, this girl's just going to leave me hanging like this?
It messed up on there. It's actually going to be 4 parts. So there's going to be 4 parts.
Oh, wow.
The next book is actually called Twisted Chaos.
Okay.
And it gets crazy. I think that those that have read it and were left so sadly the way that they were, you guys will be very pleasantly surprised when you go back and read Twisted Chaos. I think you guys are going to really like the way it turns out.
That's awesome. I see that she got revenge on you for leaving her like that.
Yes. So she's a writer as well. She hasn't published anything yet because she is being a turd nugget about it. But so she writes as well. And she wrote a novella, like faster than I've ever seen anybody write anything. And it was so good. But then she started a new book that was more her speed because the novella was very sweet and she's a very unhinged writer. And so she started writing a book and then she literally left me giving me 1 chapter and she refused to give me anything else.
She left you on red.
Yep. Because I left her the way I did at the end of Beautiful Chaos.
Oh, you're right. She is unhinged. Oh my.
Yeah, she is. I mean, she is.
That's awesome. You guys remind me. So she's actually my book bestie. I think she's on here right now. Jess DM Samudio. She did the same thing to me. She wrote this amazing book. It's the only book I've given 5 stars this year. Wow. And that's how we met, because I read her book and I was texting her at 4 a.m. like, you are not going to kill this character. I swear to God.
What is wrong with you? And messages though. I love it when readers do that.
And, you know, I was so many times where I wanted to message you at 4 a.m. Yes, ma'am. And there's so many times I wanted to do that too, but I was like, I can't give her a hint of what the questions would be. I don't want to like prep her on my thoughts. Okay. There was a couple of moments where I was like furiously typing, and then I was like, you know what? I can't. But maybe on Feral Daddy,
Yes. Oh, I love it. It's funny because everybody that reads it, people I don't even know, will message me and they'll be like, hey, I'm reading Feral Daddy and I'm at this part and oh my God. How did you come up with this? I love it though. I love it. I think that is probably the best thing as an author is to get to hear like the reader's thoughts in real time. It's my favorite part of everything.
I'm sure. No, because you get those raw, like a review is thought after, but a freaking raw message of like, hell no.
Yeah. And even the end of Feral Daddy, I don't leave it on a cliffhanger, but I intentionally left it the way I did so that I could pick it up for the second one. And like the end of Feral Daddy is like jaw dropping because you're like, oh, no way. This whole time.
Well, I mean, I think we've talked about it so much that I'm going to have to go read it and read the second one. And then we'll come up here again and maybe we'll invite the voice actor that's inspired it.
Yes.
To make it real awkward. And I'll just do the entire interview like this.
Yes. That would be so much fun.
Oh my God. That's amazing. So you put a lot of emphasis on the ritual of waking up. I feel like I was sleeping next to these people the whole time. Why did you put so much emphasis on the waking up?
Because I feel like when you first wake up in the morning, that's the time for some people it's at night before bed. But me, I'm a mom, you know, I'm tired. So when my head hits the pillow, I go to sleep. I'm tired. But when I wake up in the morning, that's when I have time to reflect. So like my kids haven't woken up yet. You know, I have time to kind of like lay there and think about, you know, what I have to do that day, or maybe like something bad happened the day before. And that's when I have time to kind of like process, you know, and adjust. And so I felt like the characters, instead of like laying in bed at night sobbing or, you know, like whatever, like I felt like waking up in the morning, you're fresh, you have a clear view, clear head, you have good night's sleep, you know, well, hopefully you had a good night's sleep. And like, you wake up and it's just like, let's just start this fresh with a, you know, whole new perspective in a way.
Interesting. Okay. I like that answer a lot. That makes a lot of sense. So in that same vein, I feel like Aster and Harper bring in a very interesting conversation about like sex versus intimacy. Mm-hmm. Did you set out to do that with those characters?
Yes. Yeah, because, Aster is, you know, next level. She likes it a lot. And Harper, she only knows it to be
horrible.
You know, it's nothing pleasurable about it whatsoever for her at all. Because she hasn't experienced that intimacy where it's actually an intimacy. It's, you know, solely trauma for her. So I felt like there needed to be some kind of definition there. Some kind of like scene setting for perspective purposes, I guess, you know. In that, I think that's probably the best way to describe what I was kind of going there for. It was just like, you know, she needed to see something other than trauma from it. But also, you know, Aster looks at it solely as fun.
Yeah.
You know, and then Harper learns that it's more than that, you know, throughout the story. But yeah, so I think that's probably why.
Okay. But then you waited until 88% of the book to give us an open door sex scene. Spoiler alert.
Okay, so let me tell you this. At first, I had those scenes throughout the story. But then as I read it, I felt it to be a little bit cringy because the story is based around SA trauma, to have those types of scenes in there, even though it wasn't like, even though it was supposed to be, the healing and all of that stuff with Jasper, but I wanted it to be, anticipated, not where it was just like necessary for the storyline. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want it to be cringy. Like I don't want to have all this crazy wild sex, when she's healing from, SA trauma. I just felt it was a little bit cringy. So that's why I kind of like hinted little hints of it.
It was cute.
Yeah, like she when she got a little, tipsy or whatever.
Yeah.
But then I loved that Jasper wasn't going there, and I liked that, Jasper was always asking like for permission and things like that, so like I really liked that part of it. But then like I just didn't want there to be so much in that book, but I'll tell you the next one, she fully is aware of what she wants. And it goes a little bit more. But for that one, I felt it was necessary for the story to kind of hold off a little bit and let the characters kind of build their relationship before they kind of got a little wild.
Yeah. No, the thing is, obviously, I had read Exorcist Feral Daddy, so I was expecting that level of unhingedness. And so now I see what you were saying at the beginning when I got to this one and I saw one closed door scene, 2 closed door, 3, 4. I was like, okay, well, there has to be a reason for this. I don't think. And then we got to the plane scene and I was like, that's the Heather I know.
Yeah. See, and I had that. I had it in the book, but then when I reread it, like I like to let my books sit for a good little amount of time. So that way I can like look at it with like fresh eyes before I let anybody else see it. And so when I did that, I went back and read it and I was just like, like it's good. They're good scenes, and I saved them for later. I didn't delete them. They'll be there later. Yeah, but like they just needed to have more focus on the healing part of it to create that strong intimacy that they have later.
I think I concur. I think I was surprised when it happened, but looking back at it, it made sense in terms of her like healing journey.
Yeah.
And her ability to be intimate.
Yeah, because I've read books in the past where like, it's dark romance and everybody loves smut, no matter the plot. They want the smut. And so like I've read books where it was just like, oh, why did they do that? Like she went through all that crap. Why are they putting her through this? And even though she likes it, like why would you even try that?
Yeah.
Like there's my favorite book of all time is Dante. It's a mafia romance by Sadie Kincaid. Okay. And he does some things to her, and I like the book is amazing. But when he does it, I'm like, oh, that's within poor taste, because why would you even try that with her after the things she's gone through? And so, like when I was writing that, and I'm rereading my own work, I was like, I don't want to go that cringy mode, Okay. I want it to be more about their relationship building, their trust building, like the whole emotional side to be a little bit more impactful than having a bunch of connection time. Even though we all love us some smut.
No, I agree. I think you made the right call, honestly. So good job, because that takes a lot of maturity as a writer to say, I know what the people want, but I know what's right for the story, and you chose what's right for the story, so I commend you for that.
I just feel like if I read my story and I'm cringing over it, like, what are other people going to think? And yeah, you're your own worst critic, but like,
100%. I
write what I want to read, you know what I mean? And then like, if other people like it, I'm really happy about that. But I don't write... like one of the reviews actually, you're not supposed to look at those, I know, but one of the reviews was actually like, oh, I wish there was more smut in it. And I was like, yeah, I see that, but not a lot of people said that. So I feel like a lot of people kind of got the concept behind it, maybe a little bit. So
Oh, absolutely. No, I think you did the right call. I think you did. I mean, obviously everyone likes smut, but I think that the story is more important than something so.
Yeah, like in your opinion, though, had I left all the smut that was in there, do you think that you would have really grasped the concept behind the story as well as you did?
I think I would have, because it would have been right, because I know the different types and levels of sex, right? You know, I am a sexually active woman,
Right.
and I know when you're having vanilla sweet sex, when it's like not this crazy unhinged experience, because you need to build intimacy with the person. So I think you conveyed that though with the closed door. I think you were able to showcase that it was vanilla sex. And I thought that's what you did. I thought, you know, this is so vanilla because they're building that rapport that it's not worth explaining something that's so like level 1 in terms of like the smut scale, right?
Right.
So when they escalated, that's when you showed it. And that's why I learned like, okay, this is intentional. She did this on purpose.
Right.
This was not, I texted Jess. She's my witness. I was like, oh, wait a minute. You know, we're leveling up, and I got it. I understood what you were doing immediately. But at first I was a little like, why isn't she showing this? Why isn't she showing this?
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I would have gotten it because it's about, again, it's not about having sex. It's the sex you have.
Yeah.
And just like in her perspective, like the bad experiences made sex seem awful. And then this good experience made it seem so good. Yeah. You know, in that same vein, what you do in those experiences kind of dictate the dynamic. So no, I would have gone it, but I also understand why you did it, and I respect the hell out of it. So I wouldn't change it. I really wouldn't.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Rhonda says, Beautiful Chaos is such an amazing story, so intentionally romantic. I agree. It is very romantic. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the ending.
Okay.
What the hell?
Okay.
Don't say anything.
Okay. So the ending. Okay. I could have went so many different.
I know.
Okay. But how can I say this without like totally giving off the ending? Okay. So I wanted there to be a cliffhanger. That was intentional. I wanted it to be a cliffhanger because I feel like if a book ends on a cliffhanger, that it makes you want to come back for more, right? So I mean, it's a smart move as an author, I feel like. If there's going to be more to the story, let's leave it on cliffhanger. But the way that it ended, like, there's so much unraveled in the next book, like, pertaining to everything. So all of your questions that I know are floating right now in your head, they're all answered, but they're not answered in the way that I think you will ever even expect.
Oh my God.
Like, it gets so crazy. It gets nuts. And then the way that the story goes, you're not going to expect it. Like, but it's crazy though, because it is very much just so left field with what happens. But one of the readers actually told me, she called me and she said, one of my ARC readers, and she said, Heather, are you going to blah, 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 blah? And I was like, how would you even guess that? And she's like, well, it just makes sense to me. Nobody else. There's nothing indicating that this is what's going to happen in the story. Nothing at all. But she just guessed it. Her storyteller in her head decided that's what she thought was going to happen. And I was just like, oh. I said, don't you say a word to nobody.
How dare she?
I couldn't even act like that's not what was going to happen because it was exactly spot on. But she's the only one that got it. And she's a pretty avid reader, so.
She like scanned through her brain.
Yeah, but there's no indication for what she suggested was going to happen at all through the whole story, the whole book, at all, nothing. And so, like, for her to even like guess that, I was completely shocked. But it was crazy.
Amazing! Oh my God, I'm gonna be and it didn't like make you want to change it. You were just like, well, you guessed it.
No, it's so good. It's so good. Like, wait till you read it. Like, it is so good. You're gonna go. No way. That's crazy.
That's
Are
crazy.
you serious?
Maybe I'll break my rule and I'll text you through it.
Yes. Do it. I'm gonna be so excited once this book is released to like just hear all of the gasps that come from all of the readers. Like it's gonna be crazy. Like it's so unexpected. Like even that one person knowing, like I'm fine with it because it is so good. It's such a good twist to it.
Amazing. I love it. She's fishing for the gasps, so she's looking for all the gasps.
Yeah, I love it. Like I literally, that's like when I'm writing, if I don't gasp myself, I'm like, okay, that's not good enough. What else can we do here? Let's save that for later. I have like a whole ton of like just empty sheets with like paragraphs on it. Like, oh, I'll use this later somewhere. Like,
oh, okay. She has a gasp list.
Yeah.
So from one of our viewers, they asked, Heather, where do you find your inspiration?
Like I said, I'm a mood writer. So honestly, like however I'm feeling that day is the way that my scenes are gonna go. So like if there's a scene in the book that's like exceptionally like sad or like a lot of sorrow in it, I probably didn't have a good day that day. If there's a scene where there's like a lot of enthusiasm, it's the excitement, like everybody's, doing well, it's just a really happy scene, I probably had an amazing day that day. So it's like you kind of get to like see my emotional roller coaster throughout the whole story. Like,
okay,
because when you read more of my work, you'll see my books literally do like this: up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Okay,
emotionally. And like that's not necessarily intentionally. It's literally just a reflection of my moods.
Okay, so you're definitely not a plotter. You're a pantser.
No. Okay, so I tried to plot. With every single book that I've written except my first one. With my debut novel, I kind of just wrote as I felt, as I remembered, that's that. But every other book since then, even the work that isn't published yet, I try to plot. I swear I try to plot.
She's like, I tried.
But when my scene says this is what's supposed to happen, but my characters are saying, hell no, we're going to go this route, then they go that route. And sometimes it throws it way off course, and that's not even the storyline anymore. Like I have a notebook for every book that I've written or even started or plotted or anything. I have an individual notebook for each thing where I just kind of jotted notes down, and none of my stories ended up the way that they were supposed to. Not one. So
it's amazing. Okay, so yeah, you're really out here channeling. They tell you what to do.
Exactly. Like the characters literally have minds of their own. Honestly.
So does that mean that you leave breadcrumbs though? Like do you leave enough breadcrumbs in your books that merit a second reading, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so, yeah. I know in Beautiful Chaos for sure, especially when it comes to book 2, because there are people that are only halfway mentioned in the first book that come out and they're very prominent characters in the next book. There's also certain details that are mentioned. I would say definitely in Beautiful Chaos, yes. Now, Feral Daddy, that's just a fun read. So like, there's not a lot of thought to that one. It's just fun. Let's just be honest. Like it's fun. But for certainly the Beautiful Chaos, yes.
Okay. So you have a lot of tropes, right? You have forced proximity, criminal underwear, touch her you die, possessive MMC. Which one of those tropes do you enjoy the most writing?
Oh, I honestly like them all. I like them all. I like all.
He's like all at the same time. Why choose?
Yeah, I cannot wait to write a why choose. I cannot wait. Actually, I'm going to tell you this. This is supposed to be kind of hush hush. I can't give you too much detail, but I'm writing a piece for an anthology piece that is why choose.
Oh,
yeah. So the information will come out later. I don't think they've released like the permission to mention all the details. Yeah. But I'm gonna do a why choose piece for that, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that because it's gonna be my first time. But I love why choose. The first why choose I ever read was called The Perfect Fit. No. Yeah. I think that's what it was. The Perfect Fit, and I was just like. that's nasty, but I love it. And then I read another one, and one of the main characters happened to be the name of my son, so I couldn't finish that one. I had to put that one down. Yeah. But girl, why choose? That's dirty, and I love it. I love it.
My God. Why Choose Reverse Harm is my favorite genre, Tink said. You know, I need to give it a shot. I don't know why.
Have you never read a Why Choose?
Never.
Okay, read The Perfect Fit by Sadie Kincaid.
Hold on.
She's actually one of my all-time favorite authors. I love Sadie Kincaid. And you know, Kylie Baker, she's also on TikTok. She writes Why Choose, and she writes it like nobody's business. And hers is like dark, demented, just no gray about it. Like, yeah.
Okay. Yes. I love that. No gray about it.
Yeah. She completely skipped that part.
Okay, hold on. Well, okay, thank you, Shat, for giving me the name so I can type them down.
Yeah, Tink, that's my favorite. Like, she is my favorite author.
Really?
Anything she's my automatic buy. Like, I don't care what she wrote. If she wrote a love letter, I'm gonna read it. Like, I don't care. Like, anything. She is top notch. You need to. If you haven't read anything from her, just read one book. Dante's my favorite. But any other book, anything you pick up from her is amazing.
Is she indie or traditional?
She's indie, and she's a UK author.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you said, what's the book that you suggest I read first to wet my feet?
For Why Choose?
Yeah.
Is, The Perfect Fit.
The Perfect Fit. All right. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, you need to. And that one's really good. That one is like, it's a good starter, but also it's a bit unhinged at the same time. Like, it's really good. Like, just, you need to read some Sadie. She's so good. Don't read it in public at all.
So wait, instructions unclear. Do not get on a live and read it out loud.
No, definitely not. You will get flagged. You will get mannered. There will be no life for you. Okay, fair enough. Oh my goodness, guys. Yeah, she is top notch. She is one of my favorites.
You guys are so funny. Would you call this book dark romance?
Mine?
Yeah. Beautiful Chaos.
I would, yes, because of the contents. I wouldn't call it like, I mean, there's definitely more darker, romance, but yeah, I would say it was dark romance. Okay.
Do you always set out to give happily ever afters to your dark romances?
No.
No?
Actually, I have one in the works right now that is not a happily ever after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have one in the works. And that one's kind of more like my not plotting stage. But I kind of like, I want to be one of those authors that is like, I can, anybody can read my work. You know what I mean? Like, if you like the unhinged stuff, I'll have that. And then if you like the more contemporary, I'll have that. I kind of like want to be all over the place. I don't want to have just one niche. I want to be able to like just kind of be whatever I want to write. Whatever story I want to conjure in my head, that's what I'm going to write. I don't want to be like stuck to, one genre or subgenre or, I want to be all over the board.
A jack of all genres.
Exactly.
But do you think that do you think that comes in the way of your marketing, or do you think that's kind of a myth?
No, honestly, no. Because I have readers who are like, I have readers that have read everything I've written. I have readers that are like, do you think I'll like this? Because I liked this. And I'm like, well, that's completely different. So if you like this kind of book, then yeah, you could read this one and enjoy it. And I feel like I do a well enough job of with the trigger warnings and kind of like in my marketing to kind of decipher whether or not it's going to be something somebody's going to enjoy reading.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. That's responsible of you. So speaking of responsible, I feel like I should give a trigger warning right now, because we're going to get into the part of the show that is about trauma and about truth and about responsibility when you are writing trauma. So if you have any history with SA and that topic is triggering to you, do not watch any further, or at least go cook and come back later. Okay, so obviously SA is a very heavy and deeply personal subject. What drew you to explore this theme in this book?
What was the question? Why do I explore it?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, because it's something I can relate to, first off. I have firsthand experience, general knowledge, of it. And then I feel like you should write what you know, and don't write what you don't know. Because, if you don't know about something and you're trying to really get your readers to feel a certain way, but you have no idea how that person's actually supposed to feel. So I feel like any of my books, I'm going to write what I know. And so that's why I chose this one specifically. Because first off, I feel like sometimes writers can maybe get a little bit scared or timid with the subject, because it is such a heavy subject. And there are a lot of books out there that talk about that specific subject. But I feel like it's kind of like touch and go, and it doesn't really let you fully experience what the character actually experiences. And that's why I've added that detail in the book where she has her dream, and it kind of gives you what she experiences, so that you can kind of live it with her. Because I feel like that was important. And I didn't try to give too much detail where it would really put somebody, over the edge with it. But I also wanted to make it bring awareness to it. Obviously we know this happens, but it's okay that it happens. It's not okay that it happens, but it's okay that when you experience it, it's okay to move on from it, grow from it, heal from it, take something positive from the very, very, very negative experience that it is. So that's kind of why I wrote that.
No, that's very brave. And I agree with some of the comments down here that you really do feel each character deep inside as you read through them. And is that, that explains a lot. So my next question was, your book felt very raw and intentional. And it seems like your trauma plays a huge role into how you write these books and how you express this hurt. So I'm not going to ask you that, but I do want to convey that it did show. The amount of time she took to heal was very realistic. Her, the way she behaved, how retracted she was, the way she dealt with situations. Her entire verbal and physical cues were so on point. So that makes a lot of sense. And that makes it, I was reading the next question. That makes a lot of sense. And I think it was well done, and I applaud you for putting yourself in that position.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad it was perceived that way.
Yeah,
that makes me, I was really I was so nervous. My alpha reader, when I was giving it to her to read, I was just like, is that too much? Is this too much? And she's like, no, this is real. This is real. I'm really enjoying reading it. This, I want to know what happens, and I want to see her, I like watching her grow, and and that was I wanted it to be very realistic, because all of those things actually do happen while you're trying to heal from trauma, no matter what the trauma is. You're going to have those triggers, your personal triggers, and you're going to have those things that kind of draw out this obnoxious, in a way, feelings that you've always tried to contain, and it could be something that is nothing, to the other person. They have no idea, and that happens a lot, where people just kind of misunderstand your behaviors because they don't know what you've gone through. And it could be something so simple to the other person as a word or a movement or, a joke or anything can be a trigger to somebody when they've experienced something traumatic like that. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems like obviously you went through it, but I can relate, So, but when I write things like essay or very difficult experiences, I feel like I have a responsibility that my experience isn't like to convey that my experience isn't the all encompassing experience, and that everyone has like a different way to tackle it. And I think you, in this interview, you've explained it very well, and in your book, I think you've given enough detail about her experience to let us understand her triggers. And I think that's very important, because I often find people criticize FMCs on how they deal with their trauma.
Right.
How do you feel about that, like as an author and as a reader, when people criticize each other for how they show their character dealing with this?
You know, honestly, criticism is inevitable. You could write something that is completely perfect to you or to others, but there's always going to be somebody who doesn't see it that way. And one example I can give you, and you haven't read it yet, but in Feral Daddy, the end, everybody loved the end. But there was one person that said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you wrote that. This is disgusting." And I'm like, well, you're the only person that thought it, like, so honestly, it's like the criticism's going to be there. You have to let it roll off your back, obviously. I do like to listen and kind of take it with a grain of salt, because it's like, yes, what they say and how they feel matter to me. It does. And if they didn't enjoy it, I want to know why you didn't enjoy it, so that later on I can do something maybe a little bit different that maybe makes it a little bit better for their experience in reading it. But like, criticism is going to be there whether you do it this way or that way. It's always going to be there. So you have to write for yourself. And then, the feedback is very helpful. But if I like my story, then that's all that matters.
Fair enough. That being said, do you think, right, and this is just your opinion, if you're willing to share, you can deny this question. Can you tell when someone, like you said earlier, write what you know, and that the way that you deal with this responsibility of talking about this subject is that you went through it, so you have this firsthand experience that gives you authority over this subject. It empowers you, it heals you, so you can talk about this. Can you tell when a writer does not, like, can you read someone's work and say, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, as someone that has gone through it?
Okay. I have two answers for that. Yes, I can totally tell. Or on the other end of it, you don't know how that person actually, what they went through, how they dealt with it, how they heal, how they grieve. So maybe that is realistic to them, and that's actually what happened to them, or they feel like that's how they're going to either get through it, in the future or whatever. So you can't really, logically, you can't say yes.
Yeah.
I can tell when it's a little far-fetched, I think anybody can really maybe tell, I feel like, just a little bit. But it's really all about perspective, I guess. You don't know what other people's gone through, so you can't actually say, that that's not how they felt or how they dealt with it. But sometimes you can tell.
Do you have an egregious example in mind?
Yes, but the thing is, I can't remember, because it's a book I DNF'd, and I don't really I don't even like pay it no Nevermind when I DNF books. Like, I won't even like say, hey, I DNF'd this book. I feel like that's so rude. If you didn't like something, if you liked it, rave about it. If you don't like it, then shut up. You know what I mean? Because somebody else might, you're yucking somebody else's yum in that way. Yeah, so I don't remember the name of the book. But it was about essay. And it started off a scene. It was a dark romance. It was when I first started reading dark romance. And it started off in like this really, like, she was fighting with somebody. I'm trying to remember. I wouldn't even tell you the title if it, because I didn't like it. I stopped it anyway. But
we don't need titles. We don't need receipts.
Yeah. But it was like she was fighting with this person, and then she like got away, and then she was like panting, she like pushing people over, and like it was just like a really like obnoxious reaction for the way the setting was in the book. And then I was like, so I kept reading it, and there was just more stuff that like popped up, and then she was like always crying and like couldn't have a normal conversation. Like it was always like she was teary-eyed and like,
oh, I see.
like she was just like literally letting like her trauma consume her throughout like the entire. I read like a quarter of the book, and after that, I was just like, I don't really want to be, in this state of mind through the whole book. So I didn't read it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the book, but I'm sure if somebody's read it, they'll know what I'm talking about.
No, but that's a good point because I feel like when you have trauma, you don't want to tell a soul. You're so embarrassed.
Yeah.
So you're almost kind of want to convince yourself it didn't happen. And then like you go through so many processes of like telling people is the last thing in your mind.
Yeah, you don't want to relive that over and over again.
Yeah. So you're not, so no, that's a great red flag that I agree with you. I agree with that. But again, we won't know, right? Because people do, it's
exactly.
We read and we don't judge, but I agree with you. Okay, so when you write these books, do you think the reader is going to just enjoy it for the story, or are you targeting people that maybe could use this as healing, or you don't even think about it, you just write the book for yourself and that's it?
I write the book for myself primarily. That's the first thing, is because it helps me to cope with my own emotions on certain things. But I do hope that every time someone reads my writing, that they leave feeling like hopeful, or like they're not alone, or like, oh, okay, well, this is fictional, but like I can get through this because let me be like Harper. You know what I mean? Like I definitely want there to be something that's taken away in a positive way through everything that I write. Because like I said before, I write for myself. But if somebody reads my work and it helps them in any way, whether it's just an escape from, their reality, or like, oh, I've been through this and like, that's a really good way to look at it, or, any change your perspective in any type of way, or add some logic to something they're maybe going through. I feel like if you can get something out of my book, then I'm really happy about that.
Great. So I think you did something really cool in this book. Right, because in order to have an experience like this, you have to have an aggressor, right? Yes. There's always a victim and an aggressor. And obviously, in this book, you show men. Spoiler alert, there's more men than women in this book. And I thought that was very interesting because you show men as the aggressor, but you also show the man as the protector. Yes. And I thought that's another example of that contrast I was talking about earlier. Talk me through that. Okay,
so my intentions there were to show that although she is absolutely terrified of any male figure at all, because within reason, based off what happened to her childhood and everything, really, she has no reason to trust men. There's no reason there for her to trust a man. And so for there to be other women, I just didn't feel like there needed to be an abundance of women there trying to convince her otherwise. I felt like the man himself needed to show her that that's not the case. You don't have to be fearful. Like, you're okay. And I'm going to make sure you're okay, but you're going to make sure you're okay on your own as well. And it was important for her to be surrounded by her fears, to me, because I feel like if you're going to get over something entirely, or you're going to heal from something entirely, you have to be faced with it. Every day she was scared of men get in her personal space. She'd get nervous. She'd start panting. She'd get so overwhelmed, anxiety, just because a man was standing next to her. So why not have men around her so that she can learn that I'm okay. I'm fine. Like, this happened to me, but it's not who I am. It's something that happened to me, and that's it. I don't have to carry it with me forever, which we do. But, you don't have to let that be who you are as a person, because that's not who you are. You didn't choose that for yourself.
Yeah. So. Okay. No, that's beautiful. I think I just really like that, because usually when talking about these subjects, usually women become like men are the problem. They're they generalize, and, now every man is X, and I think that's very disruptive to the conversation. And so I thought it very powerful that you painted this horrible scene, but then you, like you said, you put men to work to fix it. And so I thought that was a powerful move from a kind of like character and plot dynamics.
Right.
And general theme. You're not supposed to get out what you're not supposed to get that men suck or that we hate all men from this book. On the contrary, you should get that some people are bad and some people are good, and I thought that was really cool.
Yes. Good. I'm so glad that you got that from that.
Yeah.
Because you're the only one that actually has mentioned that. So.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm glad that you got that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, a lot of these romance books, like, yeah, it's about the romance, but for me, it sheds light on, gender dynamics because everybody has a different experience with the opposite or the same sex. It doesn't matter. It's just like about the general dynamics of romance and intimacy and choosing a partner and dealing with that, because choosing a partner regardless of your orientation or your gender is a very bold and brave move. You're putting a lot of yourself into this other person and hoping that they don't take advantage of it and that you can trust them with it. And so
the most vulnerable state you can possibly be in.
I know, it's so vulnerable. And so for me, romance writers are really taking their experiences and combined experiences, right? Because we don't just write about our experience. We hear like our grandmother's experience, our mothers, our friends, maybe a cool gossip on the bus. We watch content and we like mix it together through our lens. And so for me, every romance book is not just about the romance. It's about this person's perceived or this person's desire to tell a story that shows a unique dynamic, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's something that I look for a lot in romance.
Yeah, you definitely pay attention to like the minor details and then the details that a lot of people don't really pick up on in the storytelling. So I like that. I love that actually.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help it. I think that's what makes books fun. Is like there's, I feel like authors put so much of themselves in the books that you kind of owe them to kind of dissect them and
exactly.
And see. It's not like you just wrote there. It's not like a blog post maybe or like a comment where like you just like off the cuff like said something. These are crafted, and so I feel like it's a different story.
Yeah, I feel like every minor detail it has to correlate to the story in some way. And a lot of times when I read a book and I notice those little details myself, I'll go like research the author. Like, who is that person? Like Sadie Kincaid for one. Like I researched her, and she has experienced some really, really terrible trauma herself. And she lost a child, and there was just like a lot of stuff. And there's a book called it's in the same series as Dante is. I can't think of the name of the book right now. Lorenzo. And that book started off. I remember actually calling my mom and telling mom about this book because I was like, I love her so much, but this scene is so intense that I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep reading it. And I'm so glad that I did, because that scene was so impactful with her actual life. Like you could tell that she was probably working through stuff when she wrote that one scene, that first chapter of that book. And so I'm so glad that I actually went back and finished that book, because I feel like if you don't suffer through that first chapter, because it's like, I don't have trigger warnings. Like I'm okay reading whatever. But this right here, I was bawling, and I'm just like, wow. I was so in touch with what was going on and how he was feeling and just like all of the emotional turmoil within the scene. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't put it down, but at the same time I wanted to so badly. But I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. But like it was very intense. And you could, when I went back and researched on her, like who she is as a person, as an author, like I understood that completely why she wrote that. So it was really impactful.
Wow. No, I've only had a reaction to one book that way, and it's Hunting Adeline.
Really?
Not the first one. The first one is whatever. I mean, besides the gun scene, I'm like, all right, but you know what that means. So I was like, okay, that's not real. But but the second one, oh my God. Actually, I was reading it with a coworker, and she wants to DNF, and I'm like, you have to push through. Where I was like, oh my God, this doesn't end. Like the tormenting.
I've been so skeptical about reading that series. Like, I didn't want to even touch it just because it's so hyped. Usually I like to read stuff that's not hyped because I feel like I get disappointed because I'll be so expecting something so good and then I'll read it and I'm like, hey, it's whatever.
Look, let me tell you, since we're on the subject, I started writing my book and I felt like I was in this corner writing my book alone. And so I joined Book Talk. And at first I was lurking, and obviously I learned about dark romance. And someone read a chapter or two from my thing and said, oh my God, are you writing a dark romance? And I was like, what's dark romance? What are you talking about? And so I Googled it, and everyone was hyping up these two books. And to the point where I was like, okay, come on. I am an adult woman. I have sex. Like, how bad could it be? How bad could it be? And so I bought... No, I didn't buy it. It's in KU. I read the first one. I was like, okay, like, whatever. Like, again, besides the gun scene, which if you haven't read, you don't know what that means. When you read it, you'll laugh. You'll remember me. Where I was like, okay, massive eye roll. But the second one, oh my God.
Now I want to read it.
The second one is brutal. The second one is a lot.
Really? See, okay, now I want to read it. See, I read part of the first one, and then I DNF'd it. Not because I didn't like it, but I'm a mood reader, so I wasn't in the mood for it. And so I never went back to it. But I did read the gun scene because everybody was talking about it. And so I was in a live and they were talking about it, and I was like, well, let me just see what this is about. And so I went and read literally just the gun scene, and I was just like, okay, whatever. So now I feel like I read the whole book.
No.
But I haven't.
And I will say one thing, that the second one is unhinged. Like, I have some trauma from that book. Okay, like, let's put it that way. But I will say this. I'll give her this. The male character, Zaid, or whatever his name is, I think it's Zaid. He's a memorable guy. Like, I thought he wasn't gonna, because again, blonde, it goes against my my standards. But he was so dark and broody that it kind of like it didn't matter. He's a memorable guy, and I'll give that.
Forget, right? You just forget. You just forget.
I just forget. And honestly, like on that occasion, I kind of liked the blonde. It kind of matched it. You know, I was kind of into it. That was how good those books were written.
Like, he could get it.
I was like, okay, yeah, you know, call me or whatever.
You know, it's so funny. I always say that, like, whenever I'm talking with my friends about books or whatever, I'll be like, he can get the business.
Well,
did you like so and so? Yeah, he can get it.
Yeah, he's all right. I know I was in another podcast, another live the other day, and they were like, oh, what's worse to like see your book crush get married or some other stuff? I don't even remember. And I just answered, look, I've seen all of my book crushes get married. So
honestly,
you know.
Yeah, honestly. I don't know. Like, I think everybody usually ends up getting married and having a baby.
Yeah. So, but that being said, I do recommend the Adeline books. I was the same as you. I was like, yeah, right. Whatever.
Buckle down and do it.
Just buckle down and do it.
I'm going to now.
And that's how I started my dark romance journey, because I was like, I'm just gonna rip the Band-Aid. Everyone says this is the worst one. How bad could it be? Right. And then I was like, okay, these guys mean business. and
it's so long though. So I like, when I started reading it, I just wasn't like fully like all the way submerged into it after the first couple chapters. I was just like, I'll read it later.
I will say the first 11 chapters are so poorly written in my sensibilities.
But honestly, like Alcatar, that first book, brutally slow. But it's necessary for the whole storyline. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I get that. And that was actually my first fantasy book. Was that series was my first fantasy ever, and I love it. Like, but I haven't touched another fantasy since.
Oh. She's like, I'm ruined.
Yeah, I am ruined. Well, actually, I'm beta reading for somebody right now, and her book is a fantasy. And that's really, really good. But she's not really advertising it yet or anything, so I can't really tell you any details on that. But it's really good. But as far as like published work, that's the only one I've read.
Okay, fair enough. Well, no, yeah, that was my christening with dark romance, and I'm almost glad it is, because it kind of like ripped the mysticism from it.
Right.
And now I can now that I know the standard, like that everyone's that is in the sphere like kind of gets, when I read indie authors that are dark, our dark romance, I'm like, okay, so you're this kind of dark romance writer, and you're this kind of
there's so many different kinds.
So much nuance in this genre. I feel like people gloss over that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about it, but now we're gonna segue into kind of your authorship, like how you author.
Okay.
What's your writing process like?
Okay, my writing process. Well, like I've said, I'm a mood writer, so I try to write every day. I give myself a goal. Like, I'll start writing something and I'll say, okay, I would like to finish it by this date and have it ready for edit. And then I'll actually do the math. Like, how many words do I want it to be? Okay, we'll start with 80,000 because that's a typical, number. And then I'll divide it from then to the time that I want to, be finished writing. And then I'll give myself, okay, I need to write 691 words a day. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually it's like, I'll write 5,000 words one day and then nothing for like a whole week, or, because I'm a mom first, and I homeschool. So it's like, I don't always have the time for it, but when I do have the time for it and the words are wording, I'm writing. But really, like, I try to plot. That is a miserable fail, 99.9% of the time. And you know what? And I love the way my stories end up like that. So if I stay to a specific plot line, I feel like that I would not be able to express my creativity, like my thought process properly. Like, what's the point, if I'm not writing the way I want to,
Yeah.
So I basically start off with like a specific concept. Like, I want a book about this. And then I go with it. And my characters yell at me and I write what they yell.
Nice.
And that's it.
Okay.
And then the book ends whenever I feel like, okay, this is enough for this book.
Fair enough. So you don't use any beat sheets or anything like that? You just...
Well, for my characters, I do have to keep track because I typically, like when I'm writing, I write so fast. And then I'm like, oh, what color hair was that person supposed to have? What color were her cascading locks? Was she curvy or was she skinny? You know what I mean? Like, oh, that girl was blonde. Okay, I remember. And actually in Beautiful Chaos, my sister-in-law actually brought this to my attention, and probably nobody ever would have noticed. But there is a part in there where it mentions Jasper's mother in a picture.
Yeah.
I completely described a completely different person from the picture inside the mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that she was blonde and then she had dark hair.
Yep.
It was completely different. And my sister-in-law was like, hey, I don't know if you noticed this, but you're describing two separate different people, or was that intentional? And I was like, heck no, let me fix it.
Oh my God.
I didn't even remember, because I'm such a pantser. Like, I didn't even remember mentioning her before the mansion.
Wow.
Like, at all, honestly, besides, general conversation, but not like this.
That's so funny.
Like, when she was snooping through and found the picture or whatever.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
How does your editing? Do you edit yourself?
Okay, so I have done a few things, actually. My first one, I edited it myself. I read it like 1,500 times myself and edited it the best I could. And then my sister-in-law, she's super duper smart. So she went through and helped me edit through that one. And it was terrible. It was terrible. Like, she did a great job. But I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So it was like she had to literally go in, not rewrite everything, but probably like rewrite everything, because like it was awful. And I had reread it and read it and read it and read it and read it and fixed it and read it and fixed it like so many times. I didn't want to even look at it myself. But so she helped me with it. And bless her heart, she's a mom too, and she's so busy, and she still did it, But then my second go around, I had beta readers, alpha readers, and ARC readers for that one. And then for Feral Daddy, same. I had, all the same thing. And then with the ones I'm working now, I actually hired a permanent editor. Her name is Elise. I think maybe you talked to her, or did she edit for you?
Not yet. I wasn't ready for her, but we did talk. Yeah.
Yes. So she did some sample edits for me. She's edited a few things for me. She's read my books. So she kind of knows my writing style and stuff, but she's freaking, I love her. She's top notch. And she pays really good attention to her author's needs, and she gives good feedback and everything. So when you do actually get to work with her, you're going to love her. She's amazing.
I'm excited.
So that's my editing process now, is that I write it myself. I have an alpha reader who reads it with me as I write it per chapter. And then I have my beta readers, which I have 4 beta readers that I trust. And, they have their own documents. So they kind of give me notes and feedback on. And then I have my editor. She's going to make edits. And then after that, I'll have my ARC reader. So that's how that'll go.
Nice. Wow. Pretty robust system. I like it. And you've done this for Beautiful Chaos and Feral Daddy, or is this a new thing that you're doing now?
The way I'm doing it now, it's new. I did have an alpha reader for all my work. I did have ARC readers, but I didn't have the beta readers and stuff. I've kind of just learned as I went that, this whole author thing. My first book, I would say that was a huge disaster because I had no idea what I was doing. I had zero experience, zero idea of what I was doing. Honestly, I wrote my book just for myself and then decided later, hey, I could publish this. And then people can, that book people can actually read and kind of, experience it and really learn from it and, pull stuff from that book. That one's not very fun. So I don't really advertise that one much. But my first one was I'm going to say it's a disaster. And then I just kind of gradually learned as I've gone through it. And I've learned from other authors. Other authors on this platform are amazing. They don't gatekeep for the most part. Anybody you ask a question, they're so eager to help. Yeah. And then especially there's a author, I think I mentioned her earlier, Kylie Baker. She, that girl has helped me through so much. She's taught me so much, and she does a live all the time. So I kind of go in there and pick her brain sometimes. I'm like, hey, what do you do for this? What do you do for that? And so she's just been amazing, but there's been other people throughout the community that have been amazing too. Sorry, my son got up.
Oh no, you're good.
But yeah, I've just learned so much from just other people's experience throughout this whole journey.
So what is your favorite and least favorite part about writing?
Okay, my favorite part, I'm going to say, okay, if I'm being really honest, my favorite part is getting the feedback from readers. That's probably my favorite part of it. Writing it is amazing, but it is so satisfying. But at the same time, getting that completed manuscript and then getting it edited and getting it into the hands of readers and then them thoroughly enjoying what you wrote, even though you get that imposter syndrome and you just get nervous and second guess and question am I even good at this? And then you get so much satisfaction. Well, at least for me, I feel you get so much satisfaction from the readers when they tell you oh my God, that's so good, or oh, this was crazy. How did you even think about something like that? And I love that. That's so satisfying to me. It's worth all of the late nights, all of the stress, all of the tears that go into the scenes that you write sometimes, just all of it. It's it makes everything worth it. You know what I mean? It's this is so silly to even compare it to, but it's graduating, you go through all of that class K through 12. You hated every minute of it, but walking and getting your diploma, you're yes, I did this. Forget about the last, all these years of my life. I did this, and it's so satisfying. Absolutely. That's how I feel when people actually get to read my book, and then they enjoy it on top of that. It's just it's so satisfying.
Nice. Okay. Do you consider yourself a successful indie author?
I consider myself a baby indie author. I have had successes, and then I've also had not so much success. I mean, and it goes like with every experience, I feel like I get something out of it. So that to me, as long as I'm learning and I'm making myself better with each experience, then I feel like it is somewhat successful. I will say my first book launch, total dud. I didn't know what I was doing though. Like my marketing skills weren't there. Like I didn't know what I was doing. And so I learned. My second one was great. I had a really good launch. With Beautiful Chaos, I had a great launch, but with Feral Daddy, I did pre-orders and there was so much hype about it. And there was just like, everybody was talking about it and I was getting tagged in all these things. And it was like, it hyped me up so much. And I was just like, what? I'm doing this, you know? So like, I would say, yes, I am. I could be more successful. You know?
She's like, I could do more.
Yeah, I mean, like, there could be more, you know, I could get more out of it. But I feel like with every experience, as long as you're learning something, you're successful. Who cares how many you sell? I mean, obviously, we want to make money. But, like, as long as you're getting something out of it, self-gratification or, you know, just satisfaction in the fact that you published a damn book. Like, there's not a lot of people that will start a book and finish it, publish it, and then that you've got written word forever. Like, you wrote a book. It's going to be there forever. Like, you know, long before, you know, long after you've passed on, your written word is still going to be right there, you know? And that's amazing to me. So, I don't, you know, who's to say that after I'm long gone, you know, years and years and years, somebody will pick up my book and be like, oh my God. And then finally it goes viral.
They're like, oh, you read Feral Daddy?
Right. Oh my God, this lady is unhinged. Just 20 years ago. No.
I love it.
Hopefully not. I mean, I did get quite a bit of hype over Feral Daddy. I was really excited about that. But
oh my God.
So I got it over Beautiful Chaos too. So
nice.
You know, it's just different readers and different type of hype, I guess.
Sure. No, and I feel like when you launched Feral Daddy, you were more established. So there's also like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there was, I mean, I've done it differently each time, you know, so I've learned something from each experience, you know, and I get a little bit better with each book launch. So, you know, I have no doubt that in the next, you know, year or 6 months or, you know, however many books I, you know, potentially put out, I feel like they'll get more easily done and more, you know, able to maneuver through this whole indie author journey.
Yeah, no, and especially like a continuation, it's way, you know, you have like new readers and then you have like your old readers hyping it up. So I feel like a second installment of a series is like has more intrinsically more hype, I guess.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, and I have so many amazing readers that have just been so fun. You know, like I have a few of them actually, and a few of them are in here tonight that like anything I put out, they'll read it. And then like, even if it's just like, those, but the problem is they start with Feral Daddy and then they work backwards.
No.
And I'm like, you can't do that because I'm growing as an author. You know what I mean? So like, of course my first book isn't going to be as good as my last book written. And so like, I try to say that like, if somebody's never read anything by me, I'm like, well, if you really like reading and you want to read my work, start over here and then work your way up because it gets progressively better with every story.
And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I listened to you because now I can't wait to see, like now I can actually enjoy and experience your journey.
Right. Yeah. I have a couple other people that have reached out to me recently and I was just like, okay, my books are all different. And so I'm like, if you want something that's really heavy, that is a good plot, but doesn't have a lot of fun in it, you read this one. And then they like all stuff and so forth. Like, you can start with whatever you want, but I'm telling you should probably go this way.
Listen to the author. They know better. So why did you decide to indie publish? Why didn't you query and all that good stuff?
Honestly, I researched like crazy. After I finished writing my first one, and I was just like, okay, I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. And there were so many people talking about, oh, indie's the way to go, you make more money. But I wasn't doing it for that part of it, you know? But then when I got into it, it was like, okay, well, you don't make any money, but the publishers make all this money on your work. And so I felt like if I'm gonna do it solely just to have my work out there, I might as well at least benefit from it. And you know, like, why would I want some publisher to take, you know, most of the profits of my work? You know, I put all that time in. I put all that effort in. I put all that work, all that tears and late nights, and you know, all of that into this book. That, I mean, who's to say that they even do a better job at marketing it? You know, and plus it's fun. Like, you get to market it. You get to talk about your work. You get to like be excited about something that you did, and show people how much you enjoyed doing it. And so it was just more of like the experience, I guess.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. Everyone gives me, you would think that everyone gives the same answer, but no, every time I ask this question, someone gives me a different answer that I never expected.
People are just driven by different parts of it. So.
Yeah, no, I've gotten a little bit of everything, really, and I like your reason. That's really cool. How important are reviews to you?
Okay, so they're important, but like I said before, I write for myself. So if somebody doesn't like it, like me personally, when I read a book, if it's so good, I'm going to rave about it. I'm going to tell everybody and their mothers about it because it is so good and everybody needs to experience this story, this writer. Like, this is amazing. But if I read a book that is not good, I'm not going to say anything. And so I'm the type of person, like, if I'm going to look at reviews, I feel like all I should see is good reviews on it. And like, if a book was just a dud, I want to see 3 reviews. 5 reviews, and that's going to tell me that book's probably not the best book. Or who's to say it's not for me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, with my own reviews, I get a little bit upset when I see a negative review because I'm like, shut up. Like, you didn't like it. So what? Other people liked it. You know what I mean? So who are you to yuck on somebody's yum? Like, I get tired of hearing that. Even like when people are doing their book reviews on Book Talk, like, you didn't like it, I totally DMF'd this book. Like, why do you have to say that? Why did you have to say that? You DMF'd it. That's what you just said. You DMF'd it. So that means you didn't like it. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to like it. And so they're important. From an author's point of view, from an author's state, they're important because it does give me a little bit of good feedback. But it's not going to make or break me.
Okay, fair enough. Oh yeah. What is your ultimate goal as a writer?
To make a statement and to help while doing it. I want my stories to be amazing. I want to be a bestseller. I want to have a motion picture, but that's not my goal. You know what I mean? Like, that's not my goal. My goal is to be seen, be heard, and be remembered.
Be seen, be heard, and be remembered. That's beautiful. Yeah. I love that.
And if all those other amazing things happen to me, well, hey.
Well, hell yeah.
But I mean, it's like, that's not gonna keep me from writing or motivate me to write. I write because I've gained so much from it personally. So
that's beautiful. I love that.
Thank you.
So in that same vein, what has been your most rewarding moment in your author journey right now? As of right now.
Oh my gosh, there's been so many.
Highlights.
As of right now, I will say that I got a little bit excited when I spoke with other authors. When I originally ended my pre-order and I had a really large number for Feral Daddy, I was so excited. I was so excited because I didn't realize I was doing so well. I've never done a pre-order, so I'm just like, well, is this normal? And then an author that I really respect and I really admire her, and she was like, no, I think I had 20 pre-orders when I did mine. And I was like, what? Because I did well over 100. And so, I didn't know that was good. You know, like I had
That's amazing.
I had no clue though. And I was just like going about, you know. And so I was really excited about that after I figured that out. So that was one thing that kind of like, it was a huge thing for me. But I guess like a booster, you know what I mean? That's an booster for me. But just like the responses that I get from people that read my book, like this interview today, I love the way you perceived my book. Like you took my book and you got it. You understood. And I'm sure there were some things that you didn't agree with and some things that you were like, I probably would have done it a little bit differently or whatever. But I read books and I think the same thing, you know?
Yeah, it's part of it.
And it's our creative, you know, minds that think that way. Like, that's what makes being an author fun, is that you get to decide. Like, I don't get to decide how your story ends. Yeah. I don't get to decide how your story ends. You don't get to decide how my story ends. And you can like it or you don't have to, you know what I mean? But you got it, and I love that. It's like, I feel really good talking with you, and that you read it and you literally got like all of the minor small details that I unintentionally, you know, like put in there, you know, like I didn't think anybody else would see it. So it makes me curious too, like how many others got it like that? You know what I mean? If you were able to get it like that, then how many others got it like that? And that makes me happy.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's definitely so cool. I can't wait to experience that myself. So it seems like marketing, it seems like you do a lot of it and it plays a big role on your whole thing. So talk me through a little bit about your marketing strategies, your journey.
I'm still learning. I don't know the proper path yet. I just like, I'm experimenting. Like, I know you're supposed to start hyping it the moment you start writing it. Me personally, I feel like if you start hyping it the moment you start writing it, I'm a pantser. I can't hype the story if I don't know how to
promise anything.
Yeah. So like, I'll get halfway through a book and then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to hype it up now. Yeah, it's an age gap MC, you know, it's daddy's best friend, you know, like I can do that, you know, but I'm not going to give any minor details or specific details because I don't even know how the story's going to end, you know. I'm still writing it, you know. But like a lot of people are like, no, you have to start right away. And I'm like, I don't want to hear about the same book before it's written for 9 months, you know. Like, so I'm thinking like, me personally, 2 months before your book releases, start hyping the hell out of it. Like, I want to hear about your book. I want to know when it's coming out. I want to be excited for it. I want to start saving it, you know, all your, you know, the little dialogue that you might give us teasers for. I want to know about all that stuff. And then when your book comes out, I'm going to be right there. Heck yeah, I've been waiting so long for this book. Way to go, girl. This is amazing. This was so worth the wait. You know, like that's what I'm going to do. And so that's how I've been doing it. But I've been like tweaking it. You know, like every time I've done it, I've tweaked it just a little bit differently. So that way I can see what works for me.
Yeah.
I just feel like what kind of book you write is going to determine like how you market it.
Sure. That makes sense.
I don't think there's any like wrong way to do it or right way to do it. Because I've gotten so much different advice from different people. And it's like some of it works, some of it doesn't.
Yeah.
But then like some of them are like really successful, you know, and they're doing it exactly how but it doesn't work for me. So it's just like, you know, I think it's gonna be like one of those you live and you learn kind of situations, you know, and then like whatever works for you later, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. And what works for you? Have you learned?
I think honestly is when I give teasers of like my dialogue. I feel like my dialogue is really impactful sometimes throughout my stories. And so like, I'll give teasers of that. But, with Feral Daddy, it was really just like, hey, this is a sex book. Like,
sex book.
Yeah. Look at the cover. The title says it all. Read this. You know, like it. Like, but like us girls, we can be a little feral and unhinged. You know what I mean? So like, but with Beautiful Chaos, it did take a little bit more. You know, it's a mafia romance, and it's primarily about healing from SA, and you know, like there's a huge portion of it that is about the romance and the build up of, you know, the relationship between the characters and stuff. But like there's a lot of books like that. So if I advertise solely on that, like you're not going to pay no attention. You know what I mean? So you have to kind of like see what makes your book special.
Yeah.
And then kind of like feed on that, you know,
Totally.
make other people see that that's what's special about your book before they even read it.
Yeah. Sell them on the special part. Yeah.
Yeah. What's different? What makes your book different from all the other mafia romance books out there? You know what I mean? Or whatever you write, you know, like you just have to like believe in your work yourself and then make other people believe in it as well, which is so hard. It is. It's so hard, but like it's doable. Like people do it every day. I look at, you know, and also another thing too is what works for you. Like what grabs your attention when you're scrolling. That's what I had to kind of like stop and think about. Like, what do I look at when I'm looking at a new book? What makes me stop and go, oh, is that on KU? Let me download it really quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that's what I kind of started doing is I'll see stuff and I'm like, oh, that's a really, you know, that's really good. That's an attention grabber right there, you know? Mm-hmm. And then that's kind of like what I do normally. Yeah. I'll see a really good idea and I'm like, oh, that's good. How can I make this, you know, something similar about my book? And then I just kind of go with it.
That's a good strategy. That's good. That's good advice right there.
Yeah.
Do you read a lot? What's on your TBR?
I do. I read a lot. And right now, because I'm writing an MC, dark romance, I'm reading a lot of MC just to like keep my creativity, you know, flowing. But I feel like whatever I'm writing, that's what I read about right now, or, you know, anytime. But right now I'm reading a book called Filthy Secret. It's like the second book in a six book series. And I think it's called like the Filthy Treat series or something like that by Haley something. Look at Filthy Secret. I think it's like purple and it has this really hot guy on the front. Muscles, tattoos, you know the works.
Oh my god, okay. Hot guy in the front. Understood.
That's purple.
Oh, purple.
Yeah, purple background. But it's really good. It's like it's a series, but it's like each book follows a different person within the clubhouse of the club.
Okay.
And it's like usually I don't like those kinds of books because it's hard for me to get out of the other character's life and into a new character's life. But it's working for her. She's really good at it.
Ooh,
so
okay.
I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I find myself wanting to read instead of write my own book. So if that happens, that means it's a pretty good book. So
yeah, no, I get that. Mm-hmm. Been doing a lot of reading lately.
Yeah,
and not as much writing as I should, perhaps.
You know, I have my stages though. Like sometimes I'm like all about writing every minute, every second. Like I'm ready to write, but then I get like, oh, I'm kind of burnt out. Like let me read for a little bit. And like if I start feeling like stagnant in my writing, then I know that I need to I call it my palate cleanser. It's like stop writing my own story and go read somebody else's story because like then it kind of like refreshes me. Like okay, I'll read my last chapter that I wrote and then I'll just start back. Like I'm like refreshed, like taking a nap.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
What do you mean? Like, so
next book or like what's kind of cooking?
So, okay. So I have like 5 things that I'm working on currently. And I've had to like stop myself from working on all 5 things and just focus on like 2 of them. Mm-hmm. So like right now I'm working on, Raw Daddy and then I'm also working on Twisted Chaos. And then, well, I'm working on 3 things, but, my primary one, right, that I'm working on right now is, I'm calling it, Atlas Kane. And it's going to be the first book in the Savage Misfits MC series. Okay. So I'm excited about that, which I told you who that one's about. So that's really exciting. And obviously he'll be narrating it. So that's going to be really exciting. Nice.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. So
there's so much.
That one. So I'm working on that. And then I signed up for some author signings, starting next year. I was gonna do it this year, but I was like, no, I really want to get more established and kind of like get my feet wet with like everything else before I try to dive into signings and events and stuff. And so in March, I have an event in Arkansas, and then I have one in Tennessee in April. So,
nice.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm gonna try and do 4 next year, but I haven't figured out where I'm gonna go next. I'll probably do like 2 in the beginning of the year and then maybe 2 at the end of the year.
Smart.
So just I just want to start off slow. I don't want to put any pressure on myself because I want to keep enjoying what I'm doing and not make it like where it's a chore, or a hassle. Because I'm really enjoying it. I'm having the best time, doing this author stuff. So
that's important. You have to be enjoying yourself. If not, then what's the point?
Yep, that's how I feel too.
So, do you have any advice for even babyer writers?
Well, honestly, when you're writing your first book, I feel like it's so much easier to quit than it is after you've written your first book. Because when I was writing my first book, it was just like, this is getting too much for me. I don't really want to do it anymore. Like, nobody's probably going to read it. It's probably not even that good. There's other authors that write much better. And it's like, don't compare yourself to other authors because other authors write differently from you because they're a whole different person. You have a different writing style, different technique, different thought process, different experiences. Everything's different. You are not anything compared to another person. So what works for you isn't going to work for someone else. And if you feel like somebody else writes better, well, you're going to develop your craft even more each time. You don't just, your handwriting improves as you get older. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same concept. You're going to learn through reading other people's work and through reading your own work and editing and all this other stuff that, okay, well, I don't need to word things this way because it comes off choppy. I need to be, trying to do it this way or whatever, you're going to get better. And so my biggest advice would be to just write the book. Don't give up, and don't even try to compare yourself to somebody else because that person may have written 10 books and you're on your first one.
Sure.
There's no comparison. Like, you're going to learn and develop your craft as you go. So just keep going. Even if it turns out to be awful. Completely awful. Who cares? You wrote a damn book. You were an author. You wrote a damn book. Like, that's a big thing. So.
Yes, ma'am. I love that. I love that energy. And it also makes it really funny because my next question is, what author would you compare yourself to?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I wouldn't compare myself to any author, honestly, because I feel like everybody writes for their own reasons and their own expectations. Everybody's motivated by something different. If I had to compare my stories,
or your voice, maybe?
I would be hopeful that I would be compared to like Sadie Kincaid because she is like my idol. I love her. And when you read her work, I want to know if you enjoyed it. I really do because she is so good. She's amazing. And if I can be even like this much like Sadie Kincaid, I'd be so happy. So with Beautiful Chaos, I'd say like, I would compare my work to hers because she was a big influence on what I chose to write as far as like the genre. Because I was like, well, if she can write stories like that, so can I. Like, I want to write like her. So I would say like Sadie Kincaid, but that's just solely because I idol her, in a way. It's so good. Her writing is so good. Like, literally, when you read her work, it's like you can try to guess which way the story's going to go, but you are not going to figure it out.
Ooh.
Until you're not. Like, she is so good. I swear, she's so good.
Love that.
But yeah, still,
it becomes too well recommended for me to ignore it.
Honestly, and I'm telling you, go look at her reviews. Like, if you want to even like kind of decipher for yourself, like,
I trust you.
Or you can go follow her on Facebook or TikTok or not TikTok, Instagram. I don't think she's on TikTok, but Facebook and Instagram. Just like, she is an amazing person all around. Like, she's just fun, full of life, and then her writing is like dark and sometimes unhinged, and well, a lot of the times actually unhinged. And it's just like, where did she come up with this stuff? Because it is so crazy and so good. So yeah, but yeah, so that's my answer.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna check her out. Don't worry. I'll do my homework.
And even if you don't like her, just let me know because
Okay.
I'm just curious if you don't like her or not.
Okay.
She's so good though.
Fair enough. So give me a one-liner about yourself, your life, your books, and just give me one like signature quote, maybe.
Okay, I have one, but I haven't actually made public. So actually, the girl that was in here earlier, she gave it to me.
Okay.
So Heather J. Jones, where the only safe word is next chapter.
Oh! Yes, okay.
She gave that to me, so I earned it.
Wow. Brava.
Yeah.
The only safe word is the next chapter. That's genius.
Yeah. When she said that, she was like, Heather, this is your tagline. And I was like, what? I'm loving that. I don't believe it. By far, don't believe it yet. But like, yes, okay, I'll take it.
Tell me more.
Yeah. It's like, no, seriously, that's what you should go. I'm like, yeah, okay. I love it.
I love that. That's going on. That's the intro of the video right there.
Yeah.
Okay, shameless plug. Where can we find you? Where are your books? Just do your spiel.
So I've made it very accessible. So I'm on Amazon, but we all know that authors make their most money when they sell them independently. So Amazon offers, quick shipping, but so do I. And so if you go to any of my socials, you can find me at author Heather J. Jones on all the socials. And I have my link tree listed in all of them. And I have a website, and I also have a website that I sell my books on, and it's through PayHip, but it's all of my links are there on my link tree.
Nice. Okay, wonderful. Okay, this is a naughty question that I came up with halfway through the interview that I must know, since you're my first dark romance writer.
Okay.
In my roster.
Okay, I'm nervous. Go ahead.
Do you practice what you write?
Okay, you know what's funny is you're the third person to ask me that this week.
I'm the what person?
The third person to ask me just this week. Okay. So, okay. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
But also no. So here's why. Yes, because I write off of my experiences for majority. But in Feral Daddy, I wrote off of my personal desires, have not yet maybe experienced. I did do some research.
Okay.
For some of it, like the contract that's mentioned in there, I did go and research that because I've never heard. But everything I wrote about, it's either something that I have conjured in my own mind that I thought would be amazing to experience myself, and then some of it I have experienced. So it's just like,
I need to read this book.
It's there. It's nice. It's great. It all came from here, but at the same time, I did not fully experience all of it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, on that note, I mean, they can't get better than that. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. I've had so much fun.
Yeah, this has been great. You're my longest interview so far, 2.5 hours.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
We've chatted so much, and it's all been great and amazing. I will edit this episode, and it'll be live on Sunday on YouTube. So if you missed something down there, or if you have someone that couldn't make it and wants to watch it, definitely it'll all be in there. And again, thank you so much for indulging me. And I look forward to having you again on the show once I read Feral Daddy, and it's the next one.
I feel like that one you're gonna be read the entire.
Oh my god! I should just wear a face mask. I just had
honestly, like just wear a face mask, like you can't tell that I'm blushing right now. Because it's like the first line of that book is so dirty. Like, I'm not even joking. Like,
do a sneak peek.
It literally, I'm gonna
oh my god.
Let's see, can you even read this?
I don't think so, because it's reverse.
It says, Kneel for daddy. My good little.
Well, that was a line that the next book's person is based on that he read out loud, and I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. I cannot do this.
That was so funny. When he started reading that book, he was live. And all I saw was, like, he was looking down and he was talking. I think he was in, like, Juliet's live or something. And he was looking down, and then all you saw was, he's like that grumbly laugh that he does. And he was just like, Heather. Like, that right there, totally worth it. All of it.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
That was so much fun.
It was hilarious. I was like, what? And he was like, this book?
What do you want?
Yeah, I was like, is that a good Heather or a bad Heather? And everybody blew up in the chat. And he was like, because I barely knew him really at that point. And everybody blew up in the chat, and they were just like, if he's chuckling like that, that's great. You did something right. And I was just like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, I gotta go. Get out of here.
Yeah. Bounce.
Bye. Mic drop.
Oh my God. So we'll definitely plan something special and feral, and
yeah, let's do that. It'd be so much fun.
We'll do something fun. Maybe we'll get banned, but it might be worth it.
We can do it tastefully.
Tastefully.
Yeah.
Yes.
All these thirst traps out here. Like,
that's true. We're just reading words.
We're talking about books. I mean, how bad can we get?
We're academic about it.
Yeah. That's right. It's literature appreciation. Yeah. That's gonna have to go in one of my books. It's not smut. It's literature appreciation.
Exactly. My God. And besides, you know what? If the world, like, if society collapses and we go back to, like, Victorian ages, our smutty books is what's gonna teach these women what it's like to be alive.
I mean, look at some of these paintings, though. I mean, is that not basically it's art? Our writing is our art.
Exactly.
Look at these paintings.
Exactly.
I mean,
why do they get to paint boobies and we can't write about them?
Exactly. We're just descriptive with our words instead of our eyes.
Very observational.
I mean,
I love this. I love this.
Yes, me too. I had so much fun.
Thank you so much for coming in, and there's more to come. So if you enjoyed this podcast, you're going to enjoy the next ones we'll plan, and stay tuned because I interview amazing people. You are my 7th or 8th. I don't remember anymore. I'm losing track, but so much fun. Thanks so much. And
thank you.
We'll stay in touch.
Okay, sounds great.
Have a great night.
You too.